festival with a business backing as opposed to the cultural council trying to negotiate that. And a lot of this is based on the business community, and the LBA specifically has a background and a membership who is organizing events for business purposes, and they think that they have the ability and some expertise to offer, where they could work with the Cultural Council, with the Economic Development Committee, to try and keep the community activities going. So nothing was really decided, but it was a good start, and look forward to some of those things coming forward in the future.
Excellent. Great. Moving on to director's items.
So town meeting was chock full of people. I think that was probably our best attendance in a while, and I'll put that down to the Water District and their willingness to put forward that article, which ultimately failed, but I don't think that the Water District was particularly worried about that. The marijuana bylaw was updated. We did get the money for the master plan, so I've started working on crafting the RFP. What I'll probably do is try and have that together for the end of June for the board to review, and then to go off to the assistant town manager for review for procurement, with a hope that we could get that in the central register sometime in August and hopefully be underway in October, for a process that I would probably put in a 12 to 24 month period.
Excellent.
Pondview, I think there is some hope that a 40B workshop can be put together by town council. This might be a little bit more specific to the actual comprehensive permit process. I think what in general will be done is more of an overview of that comprehensive permitting process, the timelines, the reviews, how it will work. I don't know that there'll be a lot of specificity about a particular project, as we haven't received any applications yet, and having too much in-depth discussion could create prejudicial feelings. And so when I have more information on that, I'll give it out. I did reach out to the groups that we talked about for that joint meeting. So far, I've only heard back from the Water District, so I plan to reach out again and just sort of follow up. The Water District is thrilled and thinks it's a great idea. I did hear from, before I reached out, the chair of the Sewer Commission, or the previous chair of the Sewer Commission. He felt that was also a good idea and was interested. He didn't respond to the email, but I understand that that can be tough as a volunteer. I would expect Concom would be willing to join in. I can't imagine the town manager wouldn't, and I don't know about the select board, but like I said, I'll get back on that and see who's interested again.
So, I have a question on the first thing there. So what is there a difference between 40B and comprehensive permit?
No, 40B is the Mass General Law chapter, and the comprehensive permit is the process.
So,
It just gets referred to as 40B because it's easier.
so they're basically hand in hand?
Yes, 40B outlines, so 40B is a law that covers a lot of different things, including the creation of regional planning agencies. But the comprehensive permit is a process outlined within a section of 40B that talks about the housing that we come to know as 40B development.
So did I mishear you in saying that the town council is going to talk about 40B rather than comprehensive permit, or?
He's going to talk about the comprehensive permitting process.
Okay.
And what that looks like, what the timelines are, those sorts of things.
Very good.
I don't think anything has been nailed down as to content, but I know that there's some discussion happening. And I expect this board would be interested in participating.
Certainly.
I certainly will, yeah.
I'm actually, it's not under director's items, but I'm going to jump to an ongoing item and pull it into director's items. The MBTA communities zoning. I want to make sure that I wasn't misunderstanding that the board is uninterested and would be of the opinion that not complying and not making an effort to comply would be the position that they would hope to take.
You didn't misunderstand me.
It's certainly a difficult thing to try to address. I mean, personally, my thought is that this is something that we need to decide more as a community than necessarily sitting here at planning. I know the select board's been, and the town manager have been communicating and submitting paperwork for this process.
I submitted the paperwork, and I can get
Okay.
you guys a copy of it. It's a questionnaire more than anything.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the reason that I ask is there is a planning assistance grant from the state that is due in the near future. It's up to $50,000 with a 25% match that can be matched in-kind services to a certain point. And they're leaning this grant towards compliance with 40A 3A, which is this MBTA communities requirement. And the town manager and I have discussed potentially filing the grant and looking for money to hire a consultant to work through some of the initial stages of that. However, I'm reluctant to do so in a couple of ways, and I think the town manager sort of echoes these sentiments. I certainly don't want to speak for her, but this body being opposed to it, and any bylaw coming forward is going to go through this body, and clearly in 2 years that could look somewhat different, but would require a public hearing, and having the planning board opposed to the bylaw just by matter of fact that it's compliance with 40A 3A would make the road more difficult. If there were some manner that we could comply that would potentially be less impactful, perhaps the board may be in favor of it. And perhaps through hiring the consultant, we can find that there's just absolutely nothing that's going to work, and we can just stop at that point. But I don't know what obligations we would have if we started moving forward. So I just wanted to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding what the tone of the board was.
I am personally, I'm not opposed to complying until we decide no. I don't share Mr. Allison's sentiment of don't walk down, and I don't mean to paraphrase you, so I do mean to paraphrase you. I apologize if I get incorrect. Of effectively, don't walk down a path you don't intend to go down. I'm perfectly fine walking down a path and seeing what the lay of the land is, getting whatever advantages we can in the meantime, and then eventually saying no. I mean, that's whether we like it or not, and whether it's even right or not, that is the way government processes and laws and everything work.
Yep.
So I'm not opposed to starting the process if it does not commit us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I am personally on it.
No, and I certainly respect Mr. Allison's position, and I feel like Mrs. Bertram had the kind of the same feelings when we discussed this at the last meeting. I agree with you, Mr. Brenner, that you can kind of play ball up to a certain point and keep an open mind about it, see what changes in the process, and ultimately make the decision further down the road. My only concern from a planning perspective is that this particular zoning issue has greater financial implications for the town as a whole. So I don't want to see the planning board promoter disapprove of a process that ultimately takes money away from DPW funds and things that the select board would like to do. So I think this is a little bit more of a global issue, so to speak, and something that not just planning needs to be involved in. But by the sounds of things, we've bought about a year's worth of time by submitting
Give or
the
take, yeah.
essential
And I mean,
paperwork and.
from my perspective, and I haven't had this full conversation with the town manager, but I would expect that if we were going to apply for this grant, the first step is to put together a plan for compliance, which would be due, I think it's December of 2023. I have to look at that again to know if I'm absolutely positive, but I would look for this to sort of be used to inform that process and do the exploratory work on where we could do it, what that adoption process might look like, and maybe something that would rough draft an outline of a bylaw so that people could start to understand what we're talking about before we spend too much more time socializing and moving that process forward. And I think that process would have to involve more than just this board. It would have to involve the select board, probably the finance committee, and potentially just the general public in trying to determine what their take on it was.
Any other comments?
Well, I'm reluctant to mention it, but I very, very seldom have heard the planning director bring us information about a grant that's available. And I just find it interesting that it's the meeting after we said that we didn't want to do this and we didn't care about the grants that were not going to be available to us. I think that's kind of interesting, but it is what it is.
Well, I think that's the way government works.
They hear you don't
love
want to
to
do it and they
float
offer you
those-
some money.
Yeah, they love to float money out there too.
They give you the stick and then they give you half a carrot.
Yeah, yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is that it for
Yeah.
director's items?
It is.
All right, meeting schedule, 6 PM, second and fourth Monday here at Town Hall. May 23rd is our next meeting. We have a few public hearings, stormwater permits, and site plan approvals. Ongoing items, we already touched on zoning for MBTA communities. Anything else you want to add on Pondview or? master
Actually, I was
plan?
going to go back to the 23rd. So the stormwater is, I'll go through what the hearings are, just if folks at home are interested. Northfield and Holman is the Dr. Massey land that was pulled out of chapter, the plus or minus 8 acres, and we've seen several A&Rs, and it's done a scenic road, and it's taken about 2 years to get to this point. They finally have a plan. It's McCarty Engineering, so I'm hopeful that we'll be pleased with what it looks like. Stormwater and site plan on Falula is the development that I spoke about. That is another 370-ish thousand square foot warehouse fronting in the city of Fitchburg with traffic and the majority of the building and site in Fitchburg. So fairly low impact here in Lunenburg. And then 43 Summer Street is the cannabis retail establishment it's currently Donnelly's. I think they're still open.
Yeah.
So,
I have a question on the Northfield and Holman. You had previously mentioned that the 8 plus or minus was not quite enough.
yeah, I believe that they've gone through that exercise with the select board. The way it was explained to me is the plus or minus would cover more or less anything up to 9 acres. And when they went to convey, the back taxes would be calculated on the actual square footage of conveyance. And so the 3-year penalty would be got by the town either way. And if the town so chose, they could pursue the difference and require a right of first refusal on it, and it would be up to the town to do so. I know that the applicant went was working to go back to the select board, and I'll confirm before the 23rd that that is all executed.
But I mean, is that gonna require another A and R, or is the A and Rs that they've got?
No, the A&Rs that they've got cover those,
Okay.
that difference, and that was what actually triggered their potential issue with the chapter property. And their attorney got a little worried about it, and our attorney was kind of like, eh,
Yep,
we're gonna get paid either way.
yep. But that was an issue we discussed when that initially came forward, was
Yeah.
the accuracy of it.
And I think it goes back to what the law says and what makes practical sense.
Sense. Yep.
And I think they found out that, well, we should have done it the first time.
Yep. And 260 Falula Street, or Road, that's the former Simons building?
No.
Okay.
This is, it doesn't have any frontage in Lunenburg.
Okay.
It's actually over closer to the airport. There was a parcel where they encroached on Fitchburg Housing Authority property. And this is one or two parcels down from that to the north.
Okay.
So all of the frontage is on Falula Road, and there's like a bit in the back that comes up against like the MBTA property.
All right. Excellent. Any updates on Pondview Commons?
No.
Okay.
And I expect it'll be quiet until he comes and dumps a big pile of filings here.
Yep. Excellent. Anything else? Any public comment? Seeing none. Any board comment?
Oh, I have a very quick question, light in terms of scope. I was wondering if any other board members had RSVP'd affirmative for the Lunenburg Central groundbreaking?
I have not.
I have not either, and I'm pretty sure we missed that deadline by now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
I said yes, I can go there and be a smiling, happy face for us then.
Excellent.
Great.
Much appreciated.
Are you intending to go to that? Ed?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Excellent. If there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I for myself. Thank you, everyone.
Recording stopped.
I think we just set a record.
I think
that-
so.
that-
Wow,
Our shortest
23
meeting
minutes,
keeps
I
getting
think you
shorter.
did.